Hi guys, I'm Ryan Houston and welcome to my fly tying channel. The channel contains hundreds of different videos catering from beginners right through to the more advanced tyers and covering flies and patterns from all around the world. If you like what you see, stick around until the end of the video where generally you'll find the pattern description, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. Let's get on with the show. Hi guys, welcome back. So tonight what we're going to tie is a tube fly version of a classic salmon fly pattern that has stood the test of time, and that is the green Highlander. So whenever everyone thinks of classic salmon flies, they probably think of Jock Scott first, maybe green Highlander, silver doctors. So it's one of the most famous of all, and the green and yellow pattern coloration probably suits spring fishing quite well, which is why it has maintained popularity. So I'm going to tie a tube fly variation which will keep that colour combo but with the sort of modern materials and methods, which probably makes it a bit more relevant today. So what I have here is a bit of chartreuse 3.2, and I have a black liner which I've flanged in it. So this is probably 30mm long, or what, 1.25 inches or so. Now if you want, you can put on a tag, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use this fluoro fibre and create a tail. So I'm going to take out maybe half a dozen or so fibres out of the bunch, because I find that better than cutting hanks out of it. And I'm going to double it over, and then I'm going to double it again, misalign it slightly, and tie that in its middle, and then I'll fold that back. That way it won't pull out and it gives us our tail bunch. And then if you want to just create a little bit of taper on that, just run your scissors along it. So you would then have, from the classic pattern, you'd have an ostrich butt, but for this what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this Spectra dubbing, and this one's a fiery black, and it gives the sensation of an ostrich butt, but it's that little bit more flash in it, and it's probably more durable as well. So we're just going to wrap that in one position, and that gives us a nice little butt section. The rear of this fly I'm going to go with a silver braid, so use whatever you've got. If you don't have silver braid, use silver holographic tinsel or something along the lines of that. And for added security, what I've taken to doing is just to use a little bit of clear varnish and varnish the tube prior to wrapping it on. So I'm going to do about half of my tube with my tinsel or braid, and then I'm going to tie it off and fold it back on itself. And the reason for this is my braid, I can unravel it just by pulling it, and that gives me this thinner bit which I can use as a rib. I said, in the absence of your braid not doing that, then just tie in a piece of silver tinsel or something like that, use that instead. Okay, so next we're going to dub the front section of the body, and for that I'm going to use like a chartreuse synthetic mix. Create our front section with that. So in a bigger fly I'd be putting a hackle down over that and then using this to counter rib it, you know, if it was palmered. But in a smaller fly I don't think it's necessary. So I'm just going to tie that off, fold it back, trim it. If you want, you can brush that out now. So the wing is a multi-layered wing, because classic flies had sort of married strips as such, or mixed strips of feathers. So we're going to try and get that effect here with using hairs. So I'm going to use fox hair for this, but use what you have. You've got temple dog or a possum or whatever. So I'm tying my bunch in, pointing forwards. I'm leaving this little section here. That's going to kick my wing up for me, give it that sort of temple dog shape. So a few turns just to hold it, then I'm flipping it back on itself, flattening it down with my thumb, and just tying over that tie-in point. So that folds it, there's no way that's going to pull out. And again, then I'm just going to take a little bit of my clear varnish and just run it across that. It'll do two things. It'll just soak into this tie-in here, but also that little bed there means that when I put on my next bunch of hair, which I'm going to put on standard, I'm not going to fold it, it will lay into that, and that'll sort of help to stick it down. So each bunch we're trying to get a little bit longer. So here I'm taking this orange bunch, I'm just going to pull out a lot of the under fur, makes it less likely to mat or get claggy, and I'm going to put that on until it's maybe out about the length of the tail, set it on top, and tie that down. So these tie off points, you can cut them off. You don't have to be too neat with them because we're advancing with our tie-in as we go along. That'll cover it. At this point I'm going to tie in a hackle, so I'm going to use a soft hackle. This time it's a fluorescent chartreuse sort of a hackle, and I'm going to double that. So I'll put a link up there as to how to double hackles. I'm going to tie that in by its point, fold it back, tie over. You can see it's still soaked a little bit on our varnish. And then I'm going to use that hackle, winding it in touch and turns forward to cover that tie-in that we've done so far. So I'll tie across that, and a few turns just to secure it. Again, don't worry too much about how close you cut things off, because there's going to be a cone on the front of this and it'll actually fold these back and make them more secure. Right, so then we're going to get the bit which is going to be the longest of the wing, and for that I'm going to use this sort of green Highlander type fur. Again, I'm just going to hold it about halfway along its length and pull out the shortest of the under fur. And then I'm going to put that out to the length that we want. So I'm going to go maybe out to about twice the length of the tube that I've actually got. Tie that on the top. And just use your thumb to allow it to splay around the shank a little bit. Trim that off. And I'm just going to take a little bit of super glue gel and just put it on that to make it more secure. So a little bit of flash in the wing. So what I'm going to use for that is this chartreuse coloured mirage. I'll take one strand, and again then I'll fold it over on itself so it becomes two. I'll lay that on top, not quite the length of the wing, tie it in with one wrap, fold back and tie over that, and then trim this off. So I now have 4 strands up on top of my wing there. So now I'm going to put on my second hackle. So for this I'm going to use an orange, or no, sorry, not orange, bright yellow, fluorescent yellow soft hackle. Same size or slightly larger than the green one that went before it. Same again, double it, tie it in by its tip and fold it back. And then wrap that. These soft hackles you tend to get 3 turns or 4 at a maximum. Again, trim that off, but don't worry too much about how neat it is because it's getting covered by a comb. And then we're going to put the final bunch of hair on. So this is a fiery brown fox, and it's slightly shorter than the green one that went above it. And we'll set that on, and I'm leaving its tag ends here pointing out the front for maybe what, 3mm or 4mm. Making sure that it displays across the top of the wing. And then, optional should you want it or not, I'm going to put a few strands of peacock herl across the top of this fly. I'm just going to match them up, and then I'm going to run my finger along the back of them, and that just puts a bit of a curve into them and helps them to hold across the top better. Not quite the length of the wing here, because you want the fur to support the peacock herl, because it does tend to snap a little bit, so don't have it as the longest material. And then trim that off. So to finish our fly, we're going to put on a couple of jungle cock eyes. So if we take our cape and find one from the left side and one from the right side. Now I'm just going to trim back the fibres off that to the length I want. Set it. In this case I'm setting it right on the side, tying it in place, and then the same with the opposite side of the fly. I'll just measure the feather up against that, hold it in place, and then tie it in. And then I'm going to trim that off, but you notice that I'm leaving say 2 or 3mm of that stock sitting there, and you'll see why now. So I'm just going to put a couple of half hitches on and trim my thread again, leaving a couple of mil sticking out. And what I do now is I'm going to take my super glue gel and I'm going to put a thin coat of that around the tie-in thread, and then I want to just soak these little tag ends in it here. Looks a bit messy, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this cone on, and this cone is fairly tight to the size, the hole in it is fairly tight to the size of the inner tubing, and that means that nothing's going to come through it. It'll fold whatever materials are there back into it. It's quite well recessed, so I just knock that back onto that, and that will fold all of those materials back into itself. Secure them. So I'm just going to brush the wing out just to blend it. Same with the throat. And then take the fly off the needle. I'm just going to trim the inner tube to leave 2mm. Clean that, and then I have quite a thickish needle here, and I just stick that into it just before it fully sets, and that will make sure that the stuff can still go through it. That is our fly. a green Highlander tube. So thank you for watching until the end of the video. Please take this opportunity to hit the subscribe button down below. Tell your friends about the channel, and if you want to watch some more of my content, then check out some of the links that are appearing in your screens at the minute. As per usual, I hope you enjoyed the video, so until next time, tight lines, and thanks for watching.